right. Testing, testing, testing. Everybody should be able to hear me okay. Let's see if I can change where these filters to make me a little bit brighter. That's a little dark. I guess that's a little bit lighter. That's a little bit lighter. No, that's pretty good. I like that one. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna give it a minute. But man, today is a crazy ass day for me today, man. I swear. It's been wild. It's been really wild today. I'm here in Virginia, I think? Yeah. Virginia? No, South Carolina. I'm in South Carolina. Here in South Carolina. Can't get moving, can't get going, can't do shit. Can't do shit. But I'm gonna get through though. I'm gonna get through it. Even though I got bullshit going on with this trailer, but I'm gonna get through it. What's up? Animation City. What up, though? Vasquez, what up? Y'all just don't understand, man. My day has been shit. Yo, it's been real shit. But got this new chapter. I don't know. At first I didn't want to even make a video about this at all, but I figured that I can get through some of the pain, some of the frustration, and just make the video, try to get a little bit of energy going. And probably this chapter's dope. Hopefully this chapter's dope and kind of can bring up the energy. But before I start though, I did want to say this. So I did the poll, and so just in case you guys didn't do the poll, you can go to the community page and put your vote in for the poll for what do you think that Arthur's, like, what life is he going to restart. I don't think they're going to go into it in this chapter. I don't think that, I'm just saying, like, I could be wrong, but I don't think they're going to go and continue from Arthur and, figure out what life he's about to start. Oh, congratulations, it's a boy. I don't think they're going to do it in this chapter. But they could, though. But I don't think they will. I think it's going to be teased a little bit longer. But I'm surprised, though. I will say I'm surprised. I'm surprised that so many people think that he was going to redo his life in Dicathan, which, I mean, it wasn't that many votes. It was like 20 votes, I think it was. But it was like, I don't understand why people think that he'll redo his life in Dicathan, because I'm just thinking, like, what would he learn in Dicathan? Like, it would make sense for it to be somewhere else for him to learn something. But I don't know. I didn't think it'd be in Dicathan, and I was surprised that so many people thought so. My bet was that he was going to either be in Alacria because of the whole conversation with Kara, or that he might be like a djinn or something. Did nobody think he was going to be in Asura? I don't think. Or no, I don't think anybody thought he was going to be a djinn. But anyway, let me just get into the chapter. I don't think they're going to continue off of the last chapter. I think we're going to get some other perspective from somebody else. But we'll see. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. But a cage of light. We know it's called a cage of light. Cecilia. There you go. I said it. Cecilia. The person that we love the most, right? We love Cecilia so much, right? Anyways, all right. So, Cecilia. My impatience stung like Cecilia and Nico, that chapter ended with, they was around Agrona, and he was like, oh, you need to get your story, fairy tale ending. It'd be a shame if you were to die or some shit like that. I think that's what I remember from how that left off, though. But, okay, Cecilia. My impatience stung like needles under my skin. But watching the surge of effort from the instillers and their wraith protectors, Watching the surge of effort from the instillers and the so I think Wraith Protectors is just like what the Wraiths are protecting the instillers is kind of how I'm reading that. Was a balm to my nerves. The last 2 weeks have passed slowly and with increasing frustration, but it was finally time. Everything was in place within the Beastglades. Although complicated by the dragons' increased patrols and taking over the flying castle hovering to the east, we were ready. Under a shroud of mist that hid our signatures, swallowed the noise of our passage and obscured us from view from above, my people moved into place. Okay, so it seems to me like they got everything in place in the Beastglades. We know that he's trying to do something with this rift, and I guess the rift is how you get into Ephiodus. And so he's trying to do something, either open up the rift, have control of the rift to where can't nobody else come in or leave out without his permission, I guess. They're doing something with this goddamn rift, which I'm wondering how he's gonna use that. So everything's in place. There were at least 50 instillers, Agrona's most trusted and knowledgeable servants, all carrying a plethora of dimensional storage devices. I flew above while they marched in jagged lines like many ants below. 10 full battle groups of wraiths flew around us, keeping to the cover of the drifting clouds of thick mist so their signatures wouldn't be noticed by any dragon guards. It's crazy to me that they can do all this shit without being noticed, but we know that Agrona specializes, at least with the wraiths and the other, decay attribute mana people. They're really good at hiding their presence and shit. Even Arthur had a hard time trying to find where they were, so they're really good at hiding themselves. But from the dragons, though, you would think the dragons would be able to detect them, but I guess not in this case. Agrona's just too good at hiding. So anyway, 10 full battle groups of wraiths flew around us, keeping to the cover of the drifting clouds. I could neither see nor sense any dragons, not nearby anyway. A patrol of guards was passing over the encampments built by the defeated Alacrian soldiers to the north, and a few blurred together within the flying castle some way to the east. Just above us, suspended in the sky 100 feet or so above the trees, a very different sort of mana signature seemed to simmer just beneath the surface of what was normally detectable to the bare senses. A different sort of mana signature. I wonder if Chul is going to wake up while all this is going on, or will he need more time? And I wonder how much more powerful he's going to be too. So where was I? So yeah, some different mana signatures seemed to simmer just beneath the surface of what was normally detectable to the bare senses. There was no visual distortion, at least not from within our misty cloud and beneath the canopy of thin, half-dead trees. Okay. It was fascinating, really. Although we've been calling it a rift, it was more like the mouth of a water skin. The mouth of a water skin. So that's like a small hole, kind of like a water hose, right? Like a water hose opening. What's up, Micah? What up, though? So anyway, forcing a piece of, so the magic blended into space this way, forcing a piece of our world to bulge. Wait, let me reread this. So it was like a water skin, and through it, within the water skin, I remember Arthur described ether like a water skin when he was talking about like trying to manipulate it or fold it or shape it. He said that it was like he compared, because I remember he was talking about with Meyer. Remember when Meyer compared ether to be the cup and then mana to be the water in the cup? Arthur said it was more like a water skin. He said, I think he was talking about ether, right? Ether was the water skin, and then I guess the water in the water skin was the cup, or was mana, I'm guessing. So that's what I remember he was talking about. Because I remember this is not the first time they mentioned water skin. But strategist. Okay, what's up? Logan? So you're not strategist, you're Logan. Logan, what's up, Logan? Anyway, okay, cool. So, what was I gonna say? Where was I at? Shit, I always forget where I'll be at sometimes. Let's see. All right, so give me a second. Give me a second. Okay, Rift. Okay. So within the water skin was all of Ephiodus. So they're comparing. So it was more like the mouth of a water skin, and through it, within the water skin, was all of Ephiodus. The magic required to bend space in this way, forcing a piece of our world to bulge out into some other realm, was incomprehensible to me. That's crazy. So like a piece of our world bulging out into another dimension. So I guess it kind of makes sense to me. I'm trying to envision it. So like you get a piece of land or a certain area and you stretch it out. But why would you need to stretch it though? I guess so it can still be connected to your world. Because they said that Ephiodus is still connected to their world, which is why you can't, if they were to lock it away or whatever, it'd be starved of mana. So I'm guessing that's the reason why. So it's not like a dimension where, you know, when you go through a dimension, you're going through and then you're going to a completely different a completely different world. But I guess by them bulging it out, that's what's keeping that connection to their world like still active or still alive. That's kind of how I'm imagining it. So that's probably why it's a bulge and not just like a dimension, because it has to be connected to the world. Okay, that's what I'm going to go with, because that's what makes sense to me. So it was incomprehensible to me, but the mechanism by which it remained hidden, that I now understood. Okay, so she doesn't understand how they're able to do it, but she understands what they're doing to make it hidden. So she understands that part. The presence of the rift, or rather the intense pressure of the mana flowing into and then back out of it. So mana's going in and then mana's coming back out. Okay. I wonder if it have any negative repercussions if they were to stop mana from going back into their world. It's not Earth, but you know, whatever the fuck their world is called. Caused distortions that rippled out for 100 miles in every direction. When the inward flowing mana, which was being drawn into Ephiodus, I gotta read this carefully so that we can understand what the hell's going on. So, when the inward flowing mana, which was being drawn into Ephiodus, was balanced with the mana being projected back out of it by the Asuras, so the Asuras are projecting mana back out of it, then that equilibrium disguised the rift's real location. Wait, what? Alright, I'm gonna read this again. When the inward flowing mana, which is being drawn into Ephiodus, okay, was balanced with the mana being, so when I read this, when it's in the inward flowing mana being balanced with the outward flowing mana, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Arthur using mana rotation. It reminds me of using mana rotation, because remember, with mana rotation, you have to have the same amount of mana going out of your body and then also absorbing that same amount of mana and going into your body, and you got to be doing that shit at the same time. And they had a really, really hard time doing that. And so that's what it reminds me of. They're flowing mana out of the rift and then also sucking mana in from the world back into the rift too at the same time. And so she said when it's balanced, the equilibrium disguised the rift's real location in the midst of all that disturbance happening elsewhere. It required only a bit of effort on the dragon's part to bend the light so that there was no physical manifestation of this. So they're bending the light so that way you can't physically see this all happening? Once found, though, it was now impossible for me not to see it. Neither Nico nor any of the wraiths who had already been here could sense it, no matter how specific I was or how much they stared. But when I looked beneath the surface of what was shown, I saw the cyclone of mana beneath, simultaneously being drawn in and expelled. So, obviously her sensitivity to mana is at another level, so she's the only person that can see it. I wonder if Agrona can see it, though. I wonder if he could. I indicated exactly where the rift was, and then Stillers got to work, spreading out they began to wrap it. But wouldn't somebody be like guarding the rift? You would think, right? Like, y'all got this rift in this specific location. Y'all doing all these things to disguise the location. Wouldn't it be somebody near the rift where it's just like, oh, okay, we got somebody guarding the rift, so that way if anybody tries to disturb it, then they can go and kill them or some shit like that. You know, like having somebody guarding the rift if the rift is so important. Or maybe it doesn't work that way. Maybe the rift is not an actual location. Maybe it's like space. And so it's not in a specific location. It's just space. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. But I would think somebody would be guarding it. It's kind of my point. So, so she indicated where the rift was. They began rapidly withdraw equipment from their dimension artifacts, assembling large devices in a circle around where the rift hovered high above. So the rift is high above somewhere, so I guess in the clouds. The mist spread as they did, creeping across the hard ground and between the crooked and dying trees that dominated this section of the Beast Glades, ensuring they remained obscured and undetectable. Okay. So they're trying to be undetectable while they're doing this. So I guess even if they did have somebody guarding it, they wouldn't know somebody's doing anything because they're remaining undetected. So I guess that answers that. As I watched the Instillers set out their work, I thought of Nico, hoping he would be safe. Dicathan's defenders had been busily scudding into strongholds across the continent. As Agrona had anticipated, Gray seemed to have vanished, going underground, but the information from our spies was conflicting. Even his own people seemed convinced that Gray was in multiple places at once. Okay, so his plan is in the works. So I'm guessing while this is happening, Arthur is already, inside of the fourth keystone. I mean, you said maybe they didn't think anybody could find it. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I know they underestimate humans, but like they still got Agrona. Like I don't think they really. I mean, they do underestimate Agrona, but like not to the point where like they wouldn't have anybody. I mean, they're doing all this stuff to hide it because they don't think they want to make sure that nobody finds it. So I don't know. We'll just see. There's no point of even speculating about it. So everybody thinks that he's in multiple places at once. My lips curled into a sneer. She's always fucking sneering, man. Did she sneer when she was back on Earth? Her whole personality is just so different. As if Agrona will be fooled by such a weak attempt at a diversion. Oh, Agrona. Like, yo, like, this shit is so crazy. Like, it's like, oh man, I think, like, is she like part Agrona or something? Like, I swear to God, whenever Agrona gives me like, as if he could be fooled by such a weak diversion attempt. Agrona's the best of the best. Nobody can fuck with Agrona. Like, I just don't understand. When did Agrona become her idol and become her daddy? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just... Let's go. The closest location was the wall. As I waited, I expanded out my senses. It took time to go so far. The feedback was weak, a dim cluster of distant signatures. I could feel Nico and Dragoth, as well as a bright spark of mana that must have been a lance. It was subtle, but beneath the undercurrent of every... So she can sense people from that far away, all the way to the fucking wall. That's wild. It was subtle, but beneath the undercurrent of everything else, there was a small distortion in the mana, like an opposing force pressing against it. Gray and his dragon companion? I wondered, trying to parse what I was sensing. I tasted the dragon's mana, and there was a hint of it there, but it felt as if they were shrouding themselves somehow. Surely it wouldn't be so easy as that. Do I think that Lackran people are going to betray Art? Are you talking about Saris's crew? That's in the waste right now? Do I think that they're going to betray him? I think Saris got some other plan, but ultimately my answer to that would be no. I don't think so. I don't think. Basically, you're asking, is Sarah's going to betray Art? And I don't think so. My eyes snapped open, and my thoughts wrenched back to my own task. The ring of artifacts was half in place. It was time. First, I felt the edges of the spell distorting light to wrap around the rift. Though powerful, it relied largely on the swell of magical energy to disguise its very presence. Once I had the spell in my grip, I dragged it aside like a curtain over a window. Unexpectedly, the spell resisted, as if there was someone standing on the other side holding it closed. Okay, so maybe that's the defensive measures, right? So she's trying to open the spell, and someone's there holding that shit shut. Okay, so defensive measures, all right. So that means that they should know that somebody's like, oh, wait, somebody's trying to open this up. Let me keep this shit locked down. Like, sound the alert, somebody's trying to open the curtain to the spell. You know what I'm saying? Like, something like that should be happening. So that way they're on alert, like, oh, somebody's trying to do some shit. A grown is trying to do some shit right now. So maybe get somebody there to try to beat their ass so that way they can't open it up or something. I don't know how it works. I pulled harder and the spell ripped. Okay, now she ripped the spell. Pulling apart in a visible power or a visible shower of pure mana. White light sparked out in every direction to rain down on my people. And a sickening twist of mana seemed to churn the air inside my lungs. So maybe it's like some sort of defense mechanism where if the spell gets ripped, there's like some pure mana barrage or some shit like that. The white sparks burned brighter, hotter as they fell, and I realized the danger almost too late. Shields! I shouted, waving my hands to conjure up. So yeah, it is like a defense mechanism. But wouldn't she be able to just control, like she's got such excellent control over mana, right? Wouldn't she be able to control every single spark of white mana and stop that shit from moving? Better yet, absorb that white spark of mana and purify it in her own body, and then there's no danger, right? Isn't she like all powerful? She should be able to do that shit, right? So wave her hands to conjure a protective barrier over the wraiths and instillers. Whenever the white sparks settled, they burned against the shield. Mana crackled and popping against mana. After a second of surprise, the wraiths began to conjure their own barriers, buttressing mine against the intense potency of the falling sparks. Above, the rift was now fully in view. So I guess they can see the rift now. A gash in the sky, the air seemingly to fold around it at the edges, like flesh opened by a sharp blade. The sky beyond was slightly different shade of blue, just alien enough to conjure goose flesh along my arms and neck. Inside the ripple in space, 3 distorted figures floated. Okay, inside the ripple, 3 distorted figures float. So they got defensive measures, right? It's not gonna be easy. I got this. I got it. Okay. I floated upward after them, moving the mana barrier with me, wrapping it to envelop the remnants of the strange burning spark spell. The opposing forces grinding against one another like 2 tectonic plates. As sparks failed and faded, the shield broke down and I absorbed the remaining mana. It was tinged with a draconic attribute. Wait. Let me reread this, because how the fuck did she get draconic attribute mana? I'm confused. I floated upward after them, moving the mana barrier with me. So when she says moving the mana barrier with me, I guess she's talking about her mana barrier, right? Wrapping it to envelop the remnants of the strange burning spark spell. Oh, so she's using her mana shield to wrap up the burning sparks. Okay, gotcha. Okay, I got this now. So she's using her own mana shield. She's using that mana shield to wrap up the sparks of mana from the spell, the defense mechanism from the spell, right? The sparks. She's using her shield to wrap up those sparks. They're like clashing with each other, and then once it settles down, she's absorbing. So she can't do that shit. She's absorbing the mana from the fucking sparks. And she's realizing that mana is tinged with draconic attribute. This bitch. So she couldn't directly absorb it. She had to wrap it up in some mana shield and then absorb it once it settles down. The three figures flew free of the rift and the atmosphere. The very fabric of reality itself seemed to tremble at their presence. Inside me, Tessia stirred in response. She was afraid. Why the fuck is Tessia afraid? Shit don't make any sense. She should be saying, kill me, kill me, kill me so that she don't kill everybody I love. Wouldn't that make the most sense? You know, kill her, hurry up and kill her, because I'm going to sacrifice myself so that way my loved ones can stay alive. You know, Virian's not going to die, Ellie's not going to die, because if you leave this bitch Cecilia alive, she's literally going to be responsible for killing everybody. So why isn't Tessia like, hey, you know, kill me, I'm going to try to restrain her using the Elderwood Guardian. You know, she's vulnerable, stab her now. You know, like, that's what should be happening, yo, like. But no, I have a promise to keep. I swear, I just can't. I can't get over it. I really can't. Okay. Let me calm down. I'm gonna calm down. Okay, so Mana rippled. Wait. Let me go. I missed where I was at. Damn. How do I keep going down so far? Okay. So the three figures, they flew out of the rift and the atmosphere. The very fabric of reality itself seemed to tremble at their presence. Inside me, she was afraid. They spoke as one. Three voices echoing over and under and through each other. That's crazy. This holy place is under the protection of Lord Kuz's Indrath. To attack it, to affect it in any way, is sacrilegious of the highest order. The punishment for your presence here is immediate death, reincarnate. Okay. I smirked up at them, enjoying the theatrical. How the fuck do you say this shit? Theatrical. I know that's theatrical, but is that theatricality? Theatricality. I guess how you say that shit. Of it all. They were even dressed like they were in some kind of play and not on the field of battle. Their ceremonial white robes gleaming with golden embroidery, the same color as their golden hair. The bravery of your words is only just a little bit spoiled by the fact that you're cowering behind a spell to keep you hidden from me. You know who I am, but maybe you don't know what I can do. If you did, you'd have turned around and flew right back where you came from. So that must be Cecilia saying this because, you know, she's apparently, you know, the most powerful in the world and she got to let everybody know that, hey, you're underestimating me. This shit's just crazy. Where am I? Okay, so mana rippled in the way it did around Arthur and his weapon. Mana rippled in the way it did around Arthur and his weapon. Oh, so they was using ether. They're using ether. And the three dragons blinked away. Wait, they can God step too? Holy shit! Appearing outside of the ring of the race. Because remember, that's how Arthur got out of... Remember when Regis kind of held up? It was kind of like a rift to go into the Relic Tombs. Remember Regis was like holding it up and shit after he got rid of Tacy? And then he ended up God stepping to get back to the sanctuary. That's what it reminds me of. Like they're in another dimension type of thing, and then they God step to get out to get to where she is. That's what it reminds me of. So they blinked away, appearing outside the ring of wraiths. Their amethyst eyes lit from within. The violet purple beams of light blazed between them, creating a triangle around us all, with the rift at its center. Panic surged up from deep within me. Wait, what panic? I thought that you was cocky and arrogant as hell. I thought that they were underestimating you. Why are you panicking? Sudden and visceral. Fucking English language. Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. And so certain. Attack, I screamed. The sky transformed with dozens of spells as 6 wraith battle groups unleashed their full offensive power on the 3 targets. A cage of light spread from the beams of what could only be ether, spilling down to the ground and closing over our heads. The wraith spells burst against the inside of the cage, sending soft waves undulating, I think I say that, across its surface. The sound of hissing acid and crashing thunder and blood iron shattering against the ether made my ears ring, and the smell of toxic water and scorched ozone burned my nostrils. Yeah, so they're fucking them up, bro. They got some powerful ass. I mean, I figured there wouldn't be no normal people guarding this rift. You know, like that's what I was saying. I'm just like, they not about to leave this rift like undefended. They gotta have like, you know, so they got like the defense mechanism when she ripped the spell. They got people waiting to keep that shit closed. And then when she finally broke through, they're there. They're there. On the other side of the barrier, the three dragons seemed in a trance. They did not blink or flinch as so many powerful spells crashed into their conjured barrier. They didn't chant or gesture with arcane meaning. Except for the breeze blowing through their gleaming golden hair and white robes and a subtle pulsing inside the brightness of their glowing purple eyes, they were motionless. My heart hammered inside my chest as something clawed up at me from my guts. There was a feeling of wrongness within the cage, a sense of inevitable ruin. The race fought through it, but the instillers on the ground had ceased their work, paralyzed by the oppressive force of the etheric spell. Okay, so the work that they're doing is being stopped because they're paralyzed. Okay. Something was growing inside the cage with us an empty something was growing inside the cage with us. Something was growing. Maybe they're trying to do some shit to like completely like obliterate them or some shit. An empty nothingness, like a hunger that couldn't be satiated or satiated. I know what that fucking word means, but this shit spelled weird. I would think it'd be an I in there, but it's not. Maybe like a black hole type of thing. Like a black hole is what I'm thinking of. Maybe it's like a black hole that they're building, and then ultimately they're gonna let it loose, and then it's gonna suck them up, and it's like never gonna be, it's never gonna be filled because it's just endlessly hungry or some shit. All right, so reaching out with desperate claws of mana and pure force, I ripped and tore at the insides of the etheric walls, willing the mana to dissipate the ether. The ether rippled forcefully, but it didn't break. Basically the same thing that she was going through with the mana barrier that Orloth, I think is what his name was, that Orloth had made. I remember she was trying to get through that barrier. It was like rippling and trembling and shit, but she couldn't get it to break. And then ultimately she was able to get it to break once she absorbed some mana. Anyway, the wraiths continued to bombard the walls as well, and I could sense my own desperation bleeding into them as they grew first uncertain and then panicked. But I struggled to rein myself in. Abandoning my attacks, I grasped for the mana on the other side of the barrier, but I couldn't reach it. She grasped for the mana on the other side of the barrier. I need to like try to visualize this barrier, but she can't reach it. And still, the three dragons were cold and emotionless. No glint of victory reached their eyes. No grimace or strain barred their teeth. They were like three frustrating statues emanating their etheric spell. Even as I thought this through... Wait, what? Even as I thought this, though, all three sets of eyes shifted slightly, darkening and focusing on the rift. My own gaze was pulled slowly along behind theirs. So she's going to notice what they're noticing, I guess. Black purple light began to emanate from the rift. Black purple light. Okay, this sounds kind of okay, it's going to emanate. Okay. Black purple light began to emanate from the rift, which was within the cage with us. The something... What? The something that was being called... That doesn't make any sense to me. Lebo, what up, though? The something that was being called was... Something that was being called that I had felt from the instant the cage appeared, so I guess it's that growing thing, was coming through. Oh, are they about to like bring some crazy ass like black ether creature through the gates of hell and kill them? This is some crazy ass shit, bro. I felt, okay, so when I felt the instant the cage appeared, was coming through, closing in on us. I felt hunger gnawing at me, the bitter coldness of it gripping my bones and teeth my bones and teeth of fear. I stared into the void, conjured through the walls, between the worlds to swallow us whole. It spilled from the rift like a dark cloud, like blood from a cut, like, is that fetid breath from a rotting mouth? How the fuck you say this? Let me see.
Fetid.
Fetid. Well, fetid breath. Smelling extremely unpleasant. That's what fetid means, you guys. Did you guys already know that? Anyway, reaching out, I took hold of as much mana as I could and condensed it around the rift. A storm of ice and wind and shadow. The void consumed it, dragging the mana into itself where it was snuffed out, and I suddenly understood. The void was spread throughout the cage, devouring all within it. So it is kind of like a black hole, but it's like a void is what she's calling it. It was a trap from the beginning. My fear gave way to anger and frustration. I slammed a wall of mana into the void, attempting to disrupt it or push it back into the rift, but the emptiness only swallowed my mana. How the fuck do they even make that? They can make an empty ass void that just swallows up everything, including mana? So I'm guessing, I'm gonna just predict. Either, I don't think Agruna's gonna show up and help. I think that everybody's gonna get killed except for Cecilia. And Cecilia's gonna somehow manage to get away. That's my prediction. Because I don't think Agruna's gonna show up and be like, oh, see, this little petty spell of yours, Kezis, and just wipe that shit away. I don't think Agruna's gonna do some crazy ass shit like that. That seems to be a little bit too powerful. But I think everybody's gonna die, and she's gonna get away. Because, of course, she's gonna get away. She's not gonna go into the void and get swallowed up and then wake up in a relic tombs or some shit. Didn't they say that Cecilia can't get into the relic tombs? I could have sworn they said something like that. I wonder why. Or am I crazy? Maybe I'm crazy. Let me know. Because I could have sworn somebody said something about how Cecilia couldn't go into the relic tombs. Like a few chapters ago. Anyway, so her fear gave way to frustration. She tried to push it back in, but it swallowed up her mana. And my efforts only seemed to speed its growth. Okay, so now her mana is fueling it. I needed to subdue it, delay it, anything to give myself time to think. How did one stop nothing? I evacuated rapidly. I never heard that word before. Evacuated? What the fuck? Or vacillated?
Vacillate.
Vacillated? Like Vaseline? Alternate or waver between different opinions. To be indecisive. So basically, she's been indecisive. She's alternating between different opinions. So she's alternating between opinions about wanting to keep the attacking cage in and attempt to break free, or focus on growing black, purple, dark. I don't know. I don't fucking know, man. You, and you. Bombard the barrier. Focus on a single point. Make a dent, a crack, anything. I ordered, gesturing to these three battle groups. All the rest, hold your positions. I finished, watching breathlessly as the cloud of purple-black nothing spilled down from above. All the beautiful blues, greens, yellows, and reds of the atmospheric mana dissolved to colorless nothing as the cloud crept down the sky. That's crazy. So it's like, is it absorbing the energy from the mana? So like the blues, the greens, the yellows, and the reds, it just turned into nothing? Like, that's pretty fucking wild. What kind of crazy ass spell is this? This seemed to be like on some level of like destruction. Anyway, soon there will be no mana left inside the etheric cage with us at all. In the cage with us at all. So they're inside this etheric cage. Okay, this cage must be huge then. Knowing that I would need that mana, I pulled it away from the void, emptying the air around it of mana. Okay, that makes sense. That's smart. So before it can get there and like suck up all the mana, she's trying to just gather all the mana in the atmosphere, so that way it's not getting any more fuel. Its progress seemed to slow, oozing left and right, spilling outward like a puddle, and I startled. It reminded me of nothing so much as a wild beast sniffing around for prey. Raster? Take your battle groups and circle around. Get above the emanation. Above the rift, I ordered. The wraith did not hesitate, snapping into motion as he and his brethren skittered around the edge of the darkness, disappearing from sight above. But I could feel the signature they were giving off, and so apparently could the void, because his downward progress gusted to a halt while they began to inch its way up toward the wraiths. Okay, so it's like following their energy, expanding as it did so, filling up every space it passed over. The 5 wraiths conjured barriers of protective mana around themselves so that they were wreathed in fire, shadow, and wind. I drew away the mana between them and the void cloud, but this time it did not stop. They were too close. Perhaps their signature's too strong. Okay, so she took the mana away in the atmosphere between them, but instead of stopping or slowing down like it did last time, it's like I'm hungrily about to go devour their mana because they can sense their mana. They said it's her biggest weakness is thinking. I think that was part of her weakness, and also she's not very creative with her use of mana, is what they also said too. About Cecilia is what I'm talking about. Okay, so tendrils of black purple darkness reached for them, forcing them to fly up, but they were nearing the ceiling already. So close, the void seemed to be dragging the mana away from them. That's pretty fucking crazy. Their shields spilling into it, the mana particles blowing off them like dandelion seeds before vanishing. That is that is crazy, man. That's wild. I think it's the same move that one dragon tried to use on Aldir. It might be, but I don't. But that was really more like a black hole. I know what you're talking about, because remember that guy, that dragon who had did that spell. It was like a black hole or some shit like that, but he couldn't control it, and he ended up dying because he got sucked into his own spell, which is fucking crazy. So I remember that's how he had ended up dying. So he couldn't control that shit. But yeah, it might be something similar though. So where was I at? So yeah, the dandelion. So their mana is getting like absorbed from them from a distance or some shit. The same shit that she does. A tendril brushed against the wraith's foot, and the appendage dissolved. That's wild. Conjuring a surprise scream. The mass of hungry emptiness sped toward the fire of the wraith, spilling. That's wild, bruh. Imagine some shit that's so powerful. Trapped them inside a cage. Your mana is completely useless, and then got some shit that is just devouring all mana in sight. Like, you touch it and your whole entire body is just getting dissolved. Like, that's just wild. The mass of hungry emptiness sped toward the fire of wraith, spilling up the sky above the portal. Everyone, focus on the walls there, and there, I shouted urgently, pointing to the spots closest to the dragons. As if broken out of a trance, the other battle groups joined the first 2 I had assigned to attack the walls, bombarding the etheric barrier with every spell at their disposal as they released a colossal outpouring of destructive mana. Blood Iron, Soul Fire, Void Wind, and Bile Water attribute spells struck, hammered, splashed, and sliced the walls containing us, all contained to those 3 narrow points. But my thoughts were condensing too slowly. So basically she's saying that she can't figure this shit out fast enough because she thinks too slow. There was only so much mana in this small slice of ground. Only so much in me, and the void cloud was consuming it rapidly. Cursing under my breath, I wished suddenly that Nico was there. He was the smart one, the one with the plans. He would have had some clever idea, some way to turn the void against them. Outside, the 3 dragons remained in their trance, apparently concentrating all their effort on maintaining their spells. The dark clouds spread above us, cutting off the 5 wraiths. The wounded woman attempted to fly around it and rejoin us, but the void moved with her. She tried to reverse course, but too late. With a truncated scream, all these fucking words. What? Subsumed. That's what that fucking word is. Subsumed her. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just can't fucking read. But maybe it's the words too. Subsumed her, leaving nothing behind but emptiness. In doing so, it brushed against the other walls. Within the first tendril of the moving void touched the ether of our cage. The vibrant purple energy shimmered. Okay, maybe this is a clue. You gotta like play, what is it called? Pretty much you gotta play chicken with the void wind. So get it to get super close, super close, super close, and then dodge and get out the way at the last second so that way it can absorb the ether barrier. Maybe that's what they gotta do. Maybe that's what the clue is. So yeah, she tried to reverse course, but it was too late. In doing so, it brushed against the outer walls. When the first tendril of the moving void touched the ether of our cage, the vibrant purple energy shimmered, trembling outward across the entire surface of the vast magical structure, and the void recoiled. Okay. Drawn toward 4 remaining wraiths instead. Outside our cage, the dragon shifted for the first time. A trembling tension shared between the 3, as if concentrating on their spell had just become that much more difficult. Well, guess what? She's figuring this shit out. So basically, you got to get this void tendril to keep touching the outside barrier, and the more they do that, eventually the barrier is going to come down, and the void spell will end up getting disrupted and it'll like dissipate or whatever the fuck, because they won't be able to concentrate on keeping it up anymore. That's what it seems like to me. So basically, they gotta play chicken. So becoming that much more difficult. It was confirmation enough. Grasping the mana around the 4 wraiths, I plunged it like a tether into the gnawing emptiness. So she grabbed the mana around the 4 wraiths and she plunged it like a tether into the gnawing emptiness. As I expected, it took in the mana hungrily, drawn naturally upward to fill the space above the rift. One by one, Waster and the rest of his team vanished within it, the void suddenly expanding rapidly. Wait, did this bitch just use Waster as like a sacrifice to feed the thing to get it to do what she wanted to do? One by one, Waster and the rest of his team vanished within it, with the void suddenly expanding rapidly. It couldn't help but press against the walls. Oh, okay, so she like filling it up with so she basically sacrificed them, filled it up with a bunch of mana, and then because it got filled up with mana, it ended up growing rapidly, and it pressed against the walls and the ceiling, sending crackling waves of energy rippling across the outside of the towering pillar of purple light that entrapped us. One of the dragons shouted in dismay. "Ready your spells!" I screamed, my voice crackling with fear and anticipation. The remaining race paused in their assault, focusing instead. I thought that she was going to play chicken with it. But no, she was just like, I'm going to just give you their fucking lives and have you grow and reach the edge of the barrier so that way you can fuck all this shit up. Like, that's wild. She didn't give 2 shits. She was just like, oh yeah, just have them. Just take their bodies. The remaining race pushed in their assault, focusing instead on their dragons as they waited. Buzzing with tension and magic, sweat trickled down the dragon's brow, and their statuesque stillness gave way to, I don't know what the fuck this word is. They started quivering. Is that gargaric? Gargantuic? Geriatric. See, that's another thing with the fucking English language. How does the G sound make the J sound? I thought that G makes the G sound, like ghost or great or graduate. But then now they got the G making the J sound. Like, why do fucking words that start with the letter G make the J sound? That shit makes no sense. English language makes no fucking sense. It's the same thing with the whole, is it gift or is it gift? Like, I would think it'd be gift. because the G makes the G sound. But they're saying it might be GIF because G can make the J sound. So who fucking knows, man? Who fucking knows? Geriatric. Geriatric starts with a G. Makes no sense. Anyway, I'm done. I'm done, man. Listen, I got a bone to pick with the English language, man. I just wish I was born in fucking Japan and I could just speak Japanese because their shit is way easier. Right? The I makes the E sound. It always makes the E sound. It doesn't change. Although their language is kind of weird because you got to kind of say things backwards almost. But anyway, let me continue. Okay, this is English. I'm in America. So ready your spells. What I learned about the dragon ether art. Okay. So what I had learned about the dragon ether arts returned me through the fog of war. They did not control ether the same way I controlled mana, only coaxed it to do as they wished. The spell was incredibly powerful, so much so that it took 3 of them to conjure it, and the void. Whatever dark arts they used to summon it, surely their control over it was limited. I could see that in their strained and fearful expressions through the transparent walls of ether. That's right. They don't control ether. I don't think you can control it. I think Arthur is the only person that can actually control it. And remember, they said that Arthur can control it because he is more adept to the ether. Like, they look at him, the ether looks at him as kin, as like family or some shit. So they're willing to listen to him. Whereas everybody else, they're not. So what was I going to say? So they can't control it. This was an act of desperation. They were pushing themselves and their magic to the edge of their control to destroy me. Even as I realized what I needed to do, the darkness began descending yet again, creeping into the emptiness I had conjured between us and it. The atmosphere at the bottom of the cage was thick with all the mana that I had transplanted to create that barrier. Now I took a hold of it, pulling it all close to me. Some of the instillers and wraiths cried out as they felt the mana go. But I had no time to explain. Give me your mana, you peasants! I don't have time to explain. Like, that's just fucking crazy, man. Oh, man. She is ruthless, man. That is wild. She just stole their fucking mana like that. So now that I took hold of it, pulling it all close to me, some of the instillers and wraiths cried out. She don't have any time to explain. When all that condensed mana of the area directly around the rift was forced together like a hot white soup, sloshing in the air around me, I took a long, shaking breath. With one last glance at where the void crackled and dragged across the etheric walls, I hurled the mana upward, forcing it as far and as fast as I could. Okay. The living darkness of the void took it in a greedily absorbing and unmaking all the mana I could give it. It swelled and seethed, growing rapidly, surging down. So she's basically gonna just feeding it until that shit like explodes against the barrier, and they're not able to control it anymore. It swelled and seethed, growing rapidly, surging down toward us, and pressing against the barriers, constraining it. Dark tendrils digging into the etheric walls, like ice freezing the cracks between cobstones. The void expanded. There was no explosion. Oh my God. Nobody's talking about you, bro. Shit. Stop listening to me. There was no explosion, no fireworks, not even a noise. The moment the cage surrounded us, the next it simply dissolved into purple mist and then to nothing at all. So the cage is gone, but is the void still there?
Say a command.
Shut up, bro. God damn. So it's gone. Dissolved into nothing at all. The void lost form and shape like a wisp of a cloud quickly blown away. So the void's gone too. The dragon to my left sagged under the backlash of the spell's failure and could do nothing to defend himself against the wraiths, spells converging on him. As ancient and powerful as he perhaps was, he was still flesh and bone, and under the rain of destructive magic, his skin broke open, his bones shattered, turned to dust, and only very little of him at all remained to tumble like a wingless bird into the beast glades below. Despite a sudden punishing fatigue that made my arms feel like lead and my skull pulse with each desperate beat of my heart, I rushed to take hold of the mana around the dragon to my right and ripped it away. Wait, what? I rushed to take hold of the mana around the dragon? So, okay, I need to understand. When she says she took hold of the mana around the dragon, not the mana in the dragon, is that the same as taking the mana away from the dragon so that way they die? Because I'm a little confused. Because I thought you would take the mana away from inside the dragons. So she rushed to take hold of the mana around the dragon to my right and ripped it away, creating a pocket of empty space around him. Okay, so a pocket, okay, so it's just around him, like the atmosphere, I'm guessing. So it's a pocket of empty space. So what does that do? A pocket of empty space. His eyes rolled back into his head as he struggled to keep hold of his own mana, fighting back at my control and slinging out wild spells. So, okay, so she takes away the mana around the dragon, and then she absorbs their mana? I'm guessing is how it works. I guess that's how it works. So a gout of silver fire scorched the air between us, and I intercepted it with a gleaming and, you know what, I'm fucking... Okay, so that's done. A gout of silver fire scorched the air between us, and I intercepted it with a gleaming shield. My body aching with the effort. Burning whips crackled around the shield's edges, emanating from the silver flames, and I served them with conjured blades. The flames combusted, launching apart in several smaller fireballs that all dropped like catapult stones toward the instillers, still struggling to set up the equipment below. Well, I was wrong. I said that she was going to be, she was going to run away and everybody was going to die, but she figured that shit out. Okay. But the flames flagged and withered to nothing as I fought to cancel out the spell, releasing the mana back into the atmosphere. Okay. For the corner of my eye, I saw spells flying at the other surviving dragon, but dozens of interlocking plates of bright violet energy appeared around her, moving smoothly past each other like cogs of a complex watch to catch the wraith's attacks and defuse them, never taking the full brunt of so many spells on any single plate. The dragon whose mana I had forced away was struggling to stay upright, but my arm still trembled as I deflected his spells. We sat in equilibrium for a moment, both red-faced and sweating, his pure mana flashing between us with each attack. I bided my time, just for a moment, trying to catch my breath and still my quivering muscles. What was I going to say? Each attack was weaker and slower until I was able to reach out and snuff a bolt of pure mana on the dragon's very fingertips. With a wry, desperate moan, I clenched my fists around him. The mana I pulled aside surged back in. What? So she's gonna kill him with his own mana? I clenched my fist around him. The mana I pulled aside surged back in, crushing his unprotected body like an insect between my fingers, and his corpse also plunged from the sky. So now she can take your mana out and then put it back. That's wild. And then just like surge it back in and just crush you, I guess. The mana moved behind me, not condensing into a spell, but being brushed out of the way of one, and I dodged just as a short spear of ether thrust at the base of my neck. The blow, Viper strike quick, nicked the top of my shoulder, drawing a hot line of pain and blood. What am I trying to say? Okay, elsewhere, dozens of other spears appeared out of thin air. Okay, so this is kind of like what Arthur can do. The same moment, and several of my wraiths cried out simultaneously as ether pierced their cores. God damn. Okay, cursing. I barely dodged another attack, then a third, unable to strike back or assist the others as spear after spear formed and stabbed, each one coming from a different direction, intercepting my path or even attempting to thrust into the direction I would be forced to dodge. Remembering my battle with Arthur, I wrapped my hands in, oh my god, is she about to do the same shit she did with Arthur with trying to control his blade? Remembering my battle with Arthur, I wrapped my hands in mana and feinted an off-course lurching dodge away from one spear. Then I felt the shifting of the air and mana that indicated a new spear forming. I grabbed it with both hands, even before it could launch itself in my throat. Mana swelled into my arms, shoulders, and chest, my physical strength surging, and I spun through the air. Before a new spear could manifest, I launched the one in my hands, wrapping my own mana around it. So she wrapped her own mana around the spear that was forming, and then launched it, and it flew like a bullet of an old earth firearm, almost too fast to see with the naked eye. When it struck the spinning mechanism of clockwork magic plates, the ether spear shattered one small shield before slamming into the woman's stomach. God damn. So that's it. That woman's done. Used her own spell, wrapped it up with mana, and threw it back. And then that's how she was able to fuck him up. That's crazy. Okay. So it spun through the air before a new one could manifest. Yep. Her body lurched backwards, colliding with her own spell, which battered her back and forth several times before both the spear and the shields faded. God damn, she got battered back and forth? She fell in slow motion, still conscious enough to channel her magic, but lacking the strength to... She's still alive, bro? I thought she would be dead already. Still conscious enough to channel her magic, but lacking the strength or wherewithal to keep herself afloat or prepare new defenses. Or so I thought. In a moment of hesitation that followed, the wraiths all looking to me for orders, the woman launched herself toward the rift, becoming little more than a streak of white and gold as her body expanded rapidly outward, wings sprouting from her back, scales growing over her flesh, her neck shooting forward as it elongated. Pushing off against the mana as if it were a wall, I hurled myself into her path. So she was trying to go inside the rift to get back home, and she's about to block her path. The enormous dragon's neck twisted around, glowing amethyst eyes alight with fear and fury. She bared her teeth as long as swords and snapped at me. Gravity increased so quickly with such enormous pressure that the reptilian jaw snapped shut again. Teeth breaking. God damn, bro. She's fucking her up. Teeth breaking and embedding themselves into the flesh of her mouth. Her wings bent awkwardly, the membranes tearing and the light bones snapping like twigs. Man, she is fucking her up, man. That's wild. I know, right? It is crazy that they only got 3 dragons protecting the entrance to your dimension, or whatever you want to call it, right? Only 3. But she's fucking this woman up, man. That's wild. She, where was I at? Snapping like twigs. All her forward momentum was absorbed by the gravity, and she stumbled back the way she had come. Not straight down, which would have damaged the equipment, but a slight angle. When she hit the ground, several instillers fell as well. The shockwave of her impact digging a 100-foot-long trench into the hard-packed ground and obscuring her in a cloud of dust. The surviving wraiths, each one with a spell burning in their hands, arranged themselves around the dust, prepared to eviscerate the dragon at any sign of movement. But I could feel her struggle, sense the weak effort of her mana pushed back against the gravity well. Under the cover of the dust, I saw her outline a mana shrinking, resuming her humanoid form. Unhurried, I drifted as she slowly drift down. I'm not worried. I'm not hurrying at all. So Unhurried, she drifted down. Wait, where am I? Wait. Yeah, she drifted down into the dust. A breeze blew around me, pushing the dust away to reveal, lying at the bottom of a huge crater, the final surviving Asura. I wonder, very briefly, who these three have been. How long have they labored to learn the ether arts they have performed today? I can only imagine the heights of their presumptuous arrogance as they accepted the task their Lord gave them, and the depth of their regret and despair as they realized they had failed. The woman coughed up blood, her body spasming with pain, then relaxed, unfurling across the ground to stare up at me. The weight of millennia settled on me beneath her gaze. All that life, and I have undone it. This thought was met with pride and confidence, but also something deeper and harder to identify. I swear to God. So, as the deeper and harder thing to identify would be sympathy? Is that what's deeper and harder to identify? Anyway, I shook it off and kneeled beside the dragon. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed with difficulty. I thought perhaps she would say something, beg me for her life. The fuck? That don't even make any sense. Why would they beg? They're arrogant as hell. Or admonish me for my service to Agrona. But she was silent. Reaching out, I gripped her mana and began to siphon it away from her, absorbing it fully. Arthur's companion had only given me a taste, but it hadn't been enough to really gain a sense of the dragon's magic and abilities. I needed that insight in order to fully counter their mana arts. She fought me. She could hardly do anything else, I imagine. It was instinct, like clawing at hands wrapped around her foot. But she was too far gone. Her efforts were feeble. I braced myself for whatever might come with the mana, afraid but also tantalized by the opportunity to see her memories. However, it seemed as if that part of the process was something unique to the Phoenixes, or I realized somewhat uncomfortably, perhaps even a purposeful effect by Dawn in the moment of her death, because all I experienced was the power itself. The particular aspect of dragon mana, pure mana, unfolded in my mind. No lesser core had ever clarified mana. No lesser core had ever clarified mana so brilliantly. Even my own. It shone like snowflakes on a cold, bright midwinter morning. In some ways, it was the opposite of Basilisk mana, which was dark and twisted, resulting in their decay-type mana arts. Or perhaps because of them, I breathed it in, reveling or reveling in the energy and the power that suffused me. The Asuran woman shivered, her flesh collapsing inward as the mana suffused tissue beneath it was wrung out. Her eyes faded to a pale lavender, her skin grayed, her hair thin, her handsome beauty, her strength left her. And then she was dead. I sucked in a deep, fortifying breath, the infusion of draconic mana crackling in my muscles and behind my eyes, undoing some of my fatigue. And then my eyes snapped open as I felt the distant movement of similar mana signatures. Similar, but less, I noted. None of the dragons I could sense had the strength of these three. But 10 dragon mana signatures were approaching rapidly from the north and the east. Quickly, complete the arrays, I snapped, shooting up in the air. Below me, the instillers hurriedly continued the process of setting up the equipment. I scanned the horizon, but the dragons were still too far off to see. Can the remaining wraiths and I hold off so many? I asked myself, but I knew the answer. It had never been the plan for me to fight all the dragons on Dicathan at once. So what are they gonna try to do? Make their arrays and then run away? As I watched the instillers finish their work, my mind turned inward. Frustration flared as the adrenaline of battle wore off and I was able to consider the fight that had unfolded. That the dragons would be protecting the portal was obvious, but that spell, or combination of spells, or whatever the hell the dragon had been doing, my fists clenched and the mana around me wrapped outward. I knew I couldn't have escaped this trap on my own, without the wraiths, without Waster's team's sacrifice. I would have been dissolved within that void. Everything that made me me just gone. But you're not you though. Bile rose up in the back of my throat, and I tried to push the frustration, the cold and sickening rage back down deep. I was the legacy. I couldn't just lose, just die. And I shouldn't need anyone to save me, I thought desperately. Needing something else, anything else to focus on, I turned my smoldering ire on Tessia, who had been silent throughout. What the fuck did Tessia do? Why? Oh, God. I literally just hate this character. Like, it's a pain just reading this shit. 4 dragons have died. I wonder how many more have died. More have to die for them to take the race seriously. I don't know. I really don't know. That's up to Kezis, man. Why don't Kezis just show up and wipe their ass out? Like, Kezis is like the OG, God level. Why don't he just show up and be like, you know what? I'm sick of this shit. Wipe all their ass out with some crazy ass ether art that can't nobody avoid. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I guess you can't do that, You gotta wait for Thanos to show up. He can't just show up for any little thing that's happening. But anyway, so she turned her ire towards Tessia, who's been silent, but whom I had felt writhe in disgust as I drained the dragon dry. No scolding, princess? I asked bitterly. Aren't you going to tell me what a terrible person I am? How evil and irredeemable? How blind? It appears there is nothing left for me to say that you don't already know, she replied, her voice dim, distant, and empty of emotion. I scoffed, but couldn't come up with a reply. I wanted to argue with her, to fight her. I needed to defend myself, to make someone understand. Make someone understand what exactly? God. Anyway, clenching my jaw, I tried to shake off the childish impulse. There was nothing to defend. I was doing my job. What I had to do. That was all. Below me, the last of the devices was assembled, and the power emitters, like antennas that collected and stored atmospheric mana, were being placed and connected. Struggling to be in the moment, I did the mental math. The instillers were working too slowly. On the horizon, I could now make out 5 dots growing quickly larger from the east. Cursing, I dropped down. The array was all connected together. It just lacked the power it needed. Steadying myself, I pressed down. Okay, so now she's about to give the power to accelerate this shit so they can get done quickly enough. So steadying myself, I pressed both hands against the first of the mana crystals. I envisioned the mana traveling through me, then through all the wires and cables, filling each device and letting it fulfill its purpose. Thought became reality, and the huge circle of artifacts began to hum with energy, each one emitting, at first, only a soft glow. This light radiated outward, slowly at first, but with building speed and intensity until, with a sudden rush of mana, a dome of protective force. Oh, so they're going to just make a barrier, maybe. A dome of protective force curved over us to surround the rift, cutting it and us off from the outside world. So yeah, so they're just going to like make a barrier so that way nobody can get inside and nobody can interrupt what they're doing. That makes sense. Only moments later, a missile of pure mana crashed against the side of the dome, which trembled under the force. I pushed more mana and then more still, thankfully swelling with it from absorbing the dragon. Another spell, collided with the barrier rapidly. Cracks ran across the surface, and the shield emitters began to whine. Get the rest of this mana battery up and running, I said in a low, strained voice. There was a frozen moment as no one reacted. When my gaze swept over them a second later, the instillers jumped and hurried to comply as more spells impacted the side of the dome. I needed more power, more mana to rapidly bring the emitters up to their full capacity. If only we just had 5 more minutes. My searching gaze settled on the rift above me. Little mana was being drawn into it now, but a significant amount was still pouring out, tethering myself to the crystal with mana. I launched myself off the ground and flew into the middle of the distortion. not quite entering the rift, but floating in that same in-between space the dragons had occupied before the attack. There, I drank deeply from the wellspring of that mana. What in the hell? Okay, so now she's drinking mana from the rift, but I did not hold it within myself to be purified. Instead, I pressed it downward through the tether and into the array, which pulsed with energy as the projected shield surged and thickened. Visible ripples of light pulsing along its surface to collide at the very top. The dragons arrived. Their spells and breath and claws battered the barrier. I grinned, relief draining the fear out of me. The shield held. Okay, so basically, this shield, she needed more mana. She didn't have enough mana, even after absorbing the dragon. And so she went to the rift and absorbed the mana from the rift. She didn't need to purify it. She just sent it to the array and the emitters. And then that's what did it. Mission accomplished. Nico. All right. I fidgeted as I watched the light show happening to the east. It was too far for me to know if it was working or not, although the shielding technology had been designed by Sovereign Orloff to hold back even High Sovereign Agrona. And I had seen it stop. How the fuck did they get his shielding technology? If he used it to stop Agrona, then wouldn't he have hidden it from Agrona so that way he wouldn't be able to use it against him? I guess they stole it, I don't know. Although the shielding technology had been designed by Sovereign Orloff to hold back even High Sovereign Agrona, I had seen it stop even Cecilia from breaking through. It still seemed like it was asking a lot for it to hold up under constant attacks by who knows how many dragons. And then there was a disruption technology we developed based on the prototype Ceres left behind in the Relic Tombs. So yeah, they're using shit that other people created in order to make, man, see? This is why you can't just leave your technology. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I remember when, was it the Fire Lord? No, it wasn't the Fire Lord. It was Sokka. Sokka and the one dude, they made that blimp, and they made the blimp able to, like, you know, stay in the air because they couldn't keep the blimps in the air or whatever. And I remember it like crashed into the fire, not the Fire Lord, but the like the fucking firebenders, their territory or whatever. And then they found it, and then they used the technology to make fucking blimps because they can shoot fire. They don't need any sort of like device to like change the temperature. And so they was able to use that technology to make blimps, which they didn't have previously. All because they had the prototype that Sokka and that old man had made. So this is why you can't leave your inventions and prototypes and devices left around anywhere, because people can take that shit, adapt it, and use it to destroy you. So that's just bad on Ceres. Yeah, exactly. You remember that shit? Yeah, so that's what it reminds me of. Can't just leave your shit, man. You can't leave it. So that's just a slip up on Ceres' part. But where was I at? Oh, I forget where I at. All right. So Ceres had done on the wait. Yeah. So the blah, 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 what was that? Ceres left behind the Relic Tombs. With it, we would interrupt the ability to travel through the rift, so Lord Indref couldn't send dragons through the other side, like Ceres had done on the second level of the Relic Tombs. We would cut the two worlds off from one another. Oh, that's what they're doing. Let me reread this. So they're using the shit that she did? Man, that's wild. And there was a disruption technology we developed based on a prototype Ceres left behind in the Relic Tombs. With it, we would interrupt the ability to travel through the rift, so Lord Indref couldn't send dragons through the other side. Like Ceres had done on the second level of the Relic Tombs, we would cut the two worlds off from one another. But they needed Regis in order for them to power that shit. But I guess with their technology and the arrays, I guess they don't really need Regis anymore. They can just use a ton of mana, I guess. But what was I gonna say? That's wild though. Are we doing this or what? Dragoth asked, scowling as he loomed over me. The rift was Cecilia's task to complete. I had my own. The other teams had confirmed everything is in place. I asked, more to get my head back in the process than because I was worried they hadn't. One of the handful of instillers who accompanied us snapped out a nervous, "Yes, sir." I checked my timekeeping artifact, which had been synced with several other Wraith teams now spread out across Daikathon. Power up the teleportation frame. The instillers began activating the 20-foot wide teleportation frame. I watched them with a mix of trepidation and pride. It was an artifact of my own design. Okay, so he designed this shit. While Cecilia had been searching the rifts, I was scouring the dungeons in the deepest parts of the Beast Glades in search of a complete Jinn teleportation relic. The long-distance portals they developed still held up and were used throughout Daikathon and, to a lesser extent, Alakria. They could even reach from one continent to the other as they had been used during the war. But Agrona's instillers had never learned to replicate them. I figured it out. So this motherfucker figured out how to replicate the Jinn's teleportation portals or teleportation relics. The frame emitted a low hum. Then a curtain of energy spilled down within the large open rectangle. I checked the timekeeper artifact again. Complete the link. The lead instiller programmed in the directions to a portal frame in Alakria. The mana shifted, gaining clarity. A moment later, it rippled and a row of soldiers stepped through. Behind them, another row stepped through, and then another. I knew that our forces was pouring out of identical portals all across Daikathon, set up by teams of wraiths moving near invisibly. Apprehension filled me. Despite the effort that went into this moment, just to allow these soldiers to step foot on Daikathon soil, I knew it was the easy part. As rank after rank of men filed through, I steeled myself for what was to come. No stone unturned, no village unburned. Those have been Agrona's words. Clearing my throat, I turned toward the wall, less than half a mile distant, and so begins the second invasion of Daikathon. Dragoth, you know what to do. So they're going under the wall, they're about to invade, and because they got the teleportation portals working, because of Nico, they're able to have massive amounts. I mean, they got teams and teams of wraiths, not just regular soldiers, but wraiths. They are going to fuck Daikathon up, man. That is crazy. Think about it. They couldn't handle retainers. And we know that some of these fucking wraiths are stronger than the Scythes. They got teams and teams of wraiths, bro. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. The dragons only can do so much. They gonna fuck so many dragons up, and then the dragons will be like, they're too powerful. Retreat! And they're like, wait, what about the Daikathians? Fuck the Daikathians. We gotta save our own lives. Get the fuck out of here. Like, they're gonna abandon ship, and they're gonna get the fuck out of it. But then they're gonna try to go back to the rift, and they're gonna be like, wait, we can't get into the rift. And then they're gonna be forced to just get slaughtered. Like, that's what's gonna happen, man. Like, that shit's crazy. That shit's so crazy. Well, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. So I guess we'll see how they handle. Man, unless these weapons that Ren and Gideon made can be some really like turn the tides type of power, they gonna be fucked because they don't have enough dragons to even combat these wraiths. Man, it's a wrap. I'm telling you, it's a wrap. That shit, it's over with. It really is. But let me see what y'all got to say before I get up out of here. Once again, the war starts with our boy is away. People are gonna get that sweet taste of death. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. Listen. Y'all still need to vote. If you haven't voted, still vote on where you think Arthur is gonna wake up in. Is he gonna wake up as an Alacrian? Is he gonna just redo his whole life in Daikathon with Alice and Reynolds? Is he gonna wake up in, I don't know, on Earth? Is he gonna wake up as a Jinn, as an Asura? Is he gonna wake up in a whole new world? I don't know. I'm curious though. I really am curious. But I didn't really like the Cecilia part. I'll probably give this chapter 7 out of 10. Just because I don't like these motherfuckers. And most of this chapter was Cecilia. Whenever Cecilia's in, like, it's kind of like a -3 whenever Cecilia shows up. But yeah, I ain't really got too much to say about that shit because I think they're gonna get slaughtered, man. I really do. I think that. I mean, we know that millions of people died from Aldir using the World Eater technique. You know, millions of elves and people all had died. So, I mean, I'm guessing we're gonna have either hundreds of thousands or maybe more millions of people dying. I mean, he said that no stone unturned, no village unburnt. So they're about to just raise the entire fucking world, I guess. I mean, Dicathon is like huge, so they got a lot of shit to check. But we'll see how long. I mean, all this really depends on Arthur, and then how much time they can buy until Arthur comes back. That's what all this is on. It's all going to hinge on that. So if they can buy enough time to not have everybody be killed by the time Arthur comes back, which he's going to come back, there's literally no point in the story if he doesn't come back. If Arthur doesn't come back, everybody's dead. Like, there is no, like, they're going to take over. Okay, let me not say everybody's dead, but Dicathon will be completely taken over if Arthur doesn't come back. So that'll basically be the end of the story. Or I guess we can resume. Imagine if Arthur doesn't come back, he's trapped, right? And then the story just resumes with the fight with Kezis and Agrona. And then I guess like Alice and Ellie and the Lances, they're probably gonna get killed, right? And they're just kind of like, as a bystander in the story, just kind of watching how everything unfolds. Because let's say Agrona takes over Dicathon, you know, Cecilia is all powerful and shit. They invade Ephiodus, and then I guess Agrona becomes the most powerful person in existence. And I guess that's the end of the story. Everybody's a slave. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know how it would end up. You think it's gonna be a standoff? I don't think it's gonna be a standoff. To me, is like, you know, two equal forces opposing each other, right? But it's not gonna really be a standoff if the other side is much more powerful than, like, it's just a slaughter at that point. So I don't think it's gonna be a standoff. I think it's gonna be a slaughter. That's what I think. I mean, these are wraiths. These are teams of wraiths, not just regular soldiers, not people that was in prison, that they let out of prison, you know, like last time how they let the people out of prison or whatever and they was fighting and shit. Not them. These are trained wraiths from birth. They were raised to be trained and battle together. They're going to annihilate them. Like, I don't see anything else happening other than annihilation. The Phoenixes joining the battle is going to happen. I don't think they're going to join, man. I don't think they're going to. I think that Mordain is going to stay in his little, you know, in his little hearth, his area, right? Mordain already said it. He's like, listen, I'm not going to help, but I'm not going to get in your way. So I'm just kind of like, I'm just going to let things be. I'm going to let it happen. So he's already said that. So he's not about to get involved. Chul probably will, because, you know, Chul, he wants that smoke. So Chul will get involved. But, like, the only people I can see helping are the dragons. That's it. Like, the dragons that's already there need to band together and, like, have some defensive teams and work together and fight with the rest of the people in order to hold them back. But they can only hold them back for so long. Like, the Wraiths are the superior force. That's basically what I'm trying to say. The Wraiths are they're the superior force. Like, one team of Wraiths can kill shit. They can fight against like 2 dragons at the same time. So, I don't know. When you got multiple teams, because I don't know if the dragons were trained to fight together the same way the Wraiths were. Because if they had like a team of dragons, okay, now that could be interesting, right? But I don't know. I don't know. And then you also got Cecilia too. Cecilia can come in. She can come fuck a whole lot of shit up too. So we'll see though. We'll see. I mean, it's a cool progress in the chapter, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Are they gonna? I don't really see them attacking the Phoenixes. I think they're gonna just kind of lead them along. I mean, I guess Agrona will probably attack Mordain if he feel like he can get something out of it. Maybe he wants to absorb Mordain's, mana, the same way that he absorbed, the other Sovereign's mana. Maybe he wants more mana, so he goes there to absorb the mana. I can see that'd be a reason why he does that. But I don't really see him a reason to attack Mordain when Mordain is not interfering with anything. So unless he just I don't see, he have to try to get some sort of benefit from attacking him. That's how I would see it. That's what I see would be a reason why he would attack Mordain. But other than that, I don't see him attacking him. I really don't. How strong do you think Arthur will be after solving the fourth case now? See, I don't know. I don't know what happens after, because we're talking about fate. We still don't even know what fate actually is. Like, the Jinn doesn't even know how to control fate or use fate. They're aware of fate, but they couldn't use it. So, I don't know. I don't know. Because think about it like this. Ether, right? Ether, he still hasn't even mastered all the shit you can do with Ether. So if you ask me, I don't even think you need fate. I honestly don't think you need fate. It depends though. Did Agrona use fate in some way to bring Cecilia back, right? To do the whole reincarnate thing. Is that an aspect of fate to do that? Or is that an aspect of Ether to do that? If that's an aspect of fate, then okay, I think you need fate. You need fate. But if it's not an aspect of fate for him to do the reincarnate process, and it's just some complex understanding of Ether, then I don't even think you need fate. I think Arthur just need to master Ether, unlock like a bunch of God runes, and he'll be the most powerful person in existence. All he needs to do is just master Ether. If he gets 10 other God runes and master all those God runes, he won't even need fate. He'll just fuck everybody up with Ether, So, I mean, that's what I think because Ether, we still haven't even gotten to the max potential of what he can do with Ether. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm just like, I mean, is fate really even necessary? But we still don't know how Agrona was able to reincarnate Cecilia in the first place. So we probably do need fate. But as far as how powerful he'll be if he were to solve it and unlock fate, I have no idea. I mean, he might be able to fucking move planets. You know what I'm saying? Fucking change the atmosphere, create life from nothing. Who fucking knows, man? Who knows? Who knows what this motherfucker can do with fate? Probably can switch your body into take your soul out of your body and put it into another body and shit. Like how Law can do with his devil fruit power. Just switch your bodies and shit. I mean, he could probably do some crazy ass shit. I don't even know. I mean, we still don't know how powerful Mordain is really, because we know him individually is powerful, but we don't know if he got a squad of people who can defend his territory. So we don't know how strong they are. We know about the one dude that was in the tunnels. I forgot his name. But other than that, we haven't seen any other soldier that he has that can protect his territory. But I mean, he can't even stop Cecilia from fucking eavesdropping on the conversation. What can he really do? I don't know. But yeah, that's what I think. But are y'all watching the playoffs, man? Because after I get out of this, I gotta watch the playoff game. My Lions are in the NFC Championship game, so that's super dope. But yeah, I'm gonna watch that game. I wonder if y'all watching the football game. I'm rooting for the Lions. Lions go to the Super Bowl. We're going to fuck the 49ers up. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with that game, though. Because, I don't know, man. I don't know. We ain't got no tight ends. Man. But I'm excited, though. I think the Ravens going to win, though. I think the Ravens going to beat the Chiefs. And I think, if I had to bet, I would say the 49ers beat the Lions. But I'm rooting for the Lions, though. And then I think that the Ravens going to go to the finals with against the 49ers. And I think that the Ravens are going to win. I think the Ravens are going to win everything. That's what I think. Lamar Jackson's going to finally get it done. That's what I think. But that's it. Yeah, I'm about to get up out of here. I'm about to watch the game. And I appreciate y'all joining in. I appreciate the likes. Drop some likes. Give me some likes. Your boy needs likes. The YouTube algorithm is some bullshit. But I'll check you guys out in the next video. Peace.